It is time for the spring food forest tour, and I am super excited to show you guys everything that's growing, especially because this is the first time that we're doing a tour while we're living on this property, which means we have had so much more time to dedicate to the food forest and planted so many new things. Let's go. Welcome to Mini Urban Farm, a channel about growing and raising food in the suburbs. If that's your thing, don't forget to subscribe and check out my course on growing tons of organic food in your backyard in only a few hours per week. Okay, so this is the food forest. It is about 7,000 square feet of area that we plant. Our house is back there, right? We just moved into this house, but we've been working on this food forest for the past several years since we bought the property, all right? If you've never seen this channel before, we are in Zone 9B, Central Florida, just north of Tampa. And we grow pretty much everything that we can get our hands on, okay? Over the past couple of months, I've had a lot more time to work on the food forest, and we've been planting so many more things because I've been on maternity leave. If you guys have been following along with the journey, you might have seen that we had a baby exactly 3 months ago today. So we were super excited, and we have been spending so much time out here, and I won't lie, it has been pretty hard the first couple of months. So we have been spending a lot of time out here, and, you know, it's a very relaxing environment to be in, and bringing the baby out here, and just being able to work out here in nature. I've heard gardening and, you know, working on the food forest and all of that, I've heard that referred to as therapy in the past, and I completely agree that that is super therapeutic, which brings us to today's sponsor, BetterHelp. Now, most of you might not know this about me because it's not something that I talk about often on this channel, but I'm actually a licensed therapist, which means that I wholeheartedly believe in therapy because I've seen it work so many times over and over again. It has worked for me personally in my own life as well as so many people around me. So while I think that gardening is super therapeutic and working out in nature can be some of the best forms of therapy, there just are some things that you really should talk to a professional about. And I do know that therapy can be super intimidating. You have to go and make an appointment, you have to sit in the office, wait for your appointment, all right? It can be just a really difficult thing to do if it's not something that you're accustomed to doing. Which is why I love that BetterHelp connects you with a licensed therapist who's trained to give you helpful, unbiased advice, all from your phone or your computer. You can do phone calls, video chat, or messaging, however is best for you. They make it super easy, and you usually get matched with a therapist within 48 hours, instead of having to wait weeks for an appointment and then try to figure out if you even connect with that therapist, which has happened to me so many times in the past. Visit my link below in the video's description, betterhelp.com/miniurbanfarm, or choose Mini Urban Farm during sign up to enjoy a special discount for your first month. And now, back to the food forest tour. Alright, so let's get started on this end of the food forest. Usually, if you watch this channel before, you know that I start on that end, right? The entrance to the food forest, past the sprinkler that is closest to the house. But this time around, we have so many new plants on this end. Sorry for the spinning, guys. I'm going to start over here so you can see what's growing. I know it's kind of like a sea of green right now, so you might not be able to tell that there are actually new plants out here. But let's start on the far end, actually. We're gonna come over here because I was super excited for this one. And I have my little bricks out here because my husband, Alan, does tend to run over some of these things if there's not like a mark actually showing that there's plants here we want to keep when he is mowing. This is my little American hazelnut, all right? And this, I bought it from Tractor Supply as one of those like little $10 stick things, and it's put on so much new growth. It's only been in the ground for, I want to say, like a month, and it's doing really, really well. All of this, you can see it's all green up here, right? The little inside stick, this is all brand new growth, all right? If you come further down, like that was where the package ended, like the brown mark right there, that's where it was in the package. I mean, it's grown by at least a third since we put it in the ground, so hopefully we'll get a ton of new growth this season. Yeah, I was super excited for that one. You can see my beehives. I don't know if you can see them flying around. They're quite small, and I'm not gonna get super close because I'm not wearing any of my protective gear, which I absolutely need. I'm not one of those people who can just, you know, work with my bees without any protective clothing, but there are so many bees flying around it right now. I don't really know if you can see it, but all of that little tall grass is kind of like surrounding it because Alan does not like getting close up to the bees in order to mow the yard. So next up we have my guanabana, all right? And just for the record, you can see like I haven't actually made guilds around these the same way with my hazelnut, and we have some back there as well that I'll show you, but there's no guilds around these yet, right? So I will take you into the other side and show you the guilds, which are surrounding the existing trees that are much larger. But so far, this guanabana, you can see right here has tons of new growth. Look at all of these new little bright green leaves. I actually had a guanabana tree a couple of years back, and it died after a frost actually. So I wasn't really taking care of it. We weren't living here at the time. But now we are going to try to make it work with this guanabana tree. I'm Cuban and we love guanabana. Over here we have the mango, and we have had this mango for around 2 years now, but it actually has put on tons of new growth, and we got it. It was about that tall when we got it, and you can see it's branched out. I've pruned it a little bit and it's doing really well. I still have not had a gild around it because one of the things that we just did was put in this right here, this sprinkler system. We had one on the far side, back where Milo is prancing around over there, but we just included this one here. We hooked it up and now everything gets watered, which is something that I really need if I'm going to do gilds around all of these plants. We have over here a little lime bush. This is actually a key lime, right? So there we go. It is a bush key lime. I got this at Home Depot. It's doing okay. The deer were like just chomping down on this for quite some time. You can see some of it is like dead. I'm just gonna take off this brown over here. That's kind of dead over there. And so, I mean, it's growing, right? Slowly but surely it is growing. And then one that I was really excited for, I've actually had this tree for a while, but the deer just continuously chopped this down. It had absolutely no leaves on it. This is my Pakistani mulberry. In the last couple of weeks, it has grown all of this green growth. And what's surprising about that is we just put in this fence. All right, you can see like there's a street and it's like a 4-ish foot fence. Some of the areas are higher on the property, some of them are lower, but we had this mesh, and you can see, I'll show you guys over here. We had this mesh around the entire property. I know I've talked about it so many times before, and it is a deer mesh. And basically I just hung it from the trees. All right, it went all the way up, and then it just comes down on a regular basis. So I don't know if I would recommend it. It did a good job for a while, but what ended up happening was that raccoons would climb on it, and then you just don't really have protection for the rest of the food forest. But what I've noticed is that since we moved in, even though this fence came down, at first I was like in the middle of newborn baby stage, so we didn't put the fence back up. I was convinced that, things were going to come in here, the deer were going to come in here and devour everything, but that didn't happen. And it was because of our dog Milo. Milo is a hunting dog, and anytime you have a predator-prey situation and he goes around, we let him, come in here and pee everywhere and just mark his scent basically everywhere, and the deer have just kind of stayed away since then. So between like the little perimeter fence, and we have some trees along the border ish, but mostly having a big dog, I think, is what's preventing the deer from coming in and eating all our plants. All right, so moving back down next to our little greenhouse here, I have my persimmon tree. Now this is another one that the deer absolutely loved the last couple of seasons, and it actually, let me get away from all that stuff, it actually didn't have any green growth up until I want to say like a week ago. All right, and all of this has just exploded in the past week. I'm really excited because hopefully now the deer will stay away and this tree will get to grow a little bit more. It's very stickish, very leggy still, and I do need to move this greenhouse. I originally had this greenhouse a little bit further around that area over there, but then the wind kind of like toppled it, and so it's been blocked by all these trees, but it's also blocking a lot of the sunlight for this tree. The tree is still growing, but hopefully in the next season or two I will move this, and this persimmon tree will give us a lot of fruit in the future. All right, so next up are our banana trees. I actually don't know what varieties of bananas these are. These were gifted to us. I do know that this little one here, the little red thing over there, the red stems, those are actually plantains, so they're not bananas. Everything does seem like it is growing. We have this, little rolled up leaves here, which I love seeing them come out. We do have some of this like damage. Some of it has been because it was quite cold here a month or two ago, at least at night, but a lot of it is because of the inconsistent watering on our part as well. But now that we have the sprinkler system, that hopefully it won't be as much of an issue. And then over here on the other side of the bananas, I have a violet of Bordeaux, I think it's called, a fig plant or a fig tree. I absolutely love this variety, right? My other variety is a Marseille fig, a white Marseille fig, so it doesn't really taste as figgy, but this is supposed to be like a red, purplish brown color fig. So I'm really excited for that one. It has actually put on quite a few leaves since I brought it home. I think we got this at Lowe's for like, I don't know, 13, 14 bucks. You can see it does have a little bit of like a hole in here from something eating it. I think it's like a pest, but tons of new green growth, and it seems to be doing really, really well so far. Now along the fence line, I did plant a moringa right there. I won't take you quite over there because it's kind of like a stick still, but the plan is, right, you can see our neighbor's yard. The plan is along this fence line, we are going to plant out a whole bunch of different trees and bushes and shrubs, and even use the fence as a vine trellis. All right, so I'm planning on, I actually ordered yesterday, I ordered passion fruit. So we have quite a long fence. It is around the entire 2-acre property that we have, and we're going to be using that to prop up our vines. And then over here, I have a loquat. I was super excited because you can see, I mean, tons of that bright green growth. You can even see like where the dark green growth is, and all of this is new growth since we put it into the ground. It has grown a ton, but we also have these little baby loquats, or regular size loquats, I guess. I'm not actually super familiar with loquats, but I'm really excited. I've had them a few times, and we are super excited to be getting loquats already. Now, one thing I do want to say, you guys have seen on this channel that I often grow things either from seed, or I transplant things, like I propagate them out and then transplant them into the food forest, into the garden, which is why the food forest hasn't really grown into like a massive forest yet. Is because a lot of it started from baby seeds, or little cuttings, or like plants that are smaller and therefore more inexpensive at the garden center. Now, that is one, because it's more inexpensive and we have a large area to fill, but also because I personally love growing things from seeds. I love transplanting things after I root them and, you know, use the cuttings, and I source tons and tons of our plants from like local sources, right? So instead of going and buying them, which does save you a lot of time as far as like, you know, years to maturity for a tree, I often, you know, get cuttings off of Etsy and I root them myself, things like that. Now, that is a trade-off, of course. We bought this tree and it already had tiny little, you know, baby loquats on it, and it's already an established tree, so it is already fruiting. And we did that one at an expense, right? Because it was significantly more expensive than like a tree that still has a couple years to maturity. But one of the things that we have been working on is actually, you know, getting food from this food forest, right? We have gotten a ton of food, but it has taken a couple of years to do so. So I think that, you know, the next time, and I don't know when we're going to be buying more trees because we've kind of maxed out this space, but the next time I think we might actually go with some larger trees to save on a couple of years' time. All right, I had to take a break because it started pouring rain, but now that we are back outside, I wanted to show you everything I have in my little seed starting greenhouse here. It is, ooh, some bugs. So it is either seeds that I bought specifically to put in the food forest in the guilds that will be created for some of the trees that I just showed you and some of the trees that I'm going to show you and take you through, or they are cuttings that I've taken from the trees that I have here and I've been able to propagate them out. So let me show you. All right, so first up we have some little dwarf everbearing mulberries here. All right, there are, I think, about 20 of them in total, and I actually got these as little cuttings off Etsy and I rooted them. Most of them rooted just fine. I think I had maybe 2 or 3 that ended up dying on me, but other than that they've been doing pretty well. They are, let's see, about a foot or so, some of them smaller, some of them bigger, but all of these I plan on putting either on the fence line or in the animal area with the chickens once they get a little taller, because if not, the chickens will eat all of these, and then I might give some of these away. And then when I cut my moringa tree, I actually rooted out some of these. You can see my little baby moringa leaves in here, but all of these are moringa and they are going to also go along the fence line. All right, so this little greenhouse here I got off Amazon. It is super inexpensive, but it works really, really great. I have been using it for several seasons now. You can see I have tons of stuff in here already on both sides. So let me start with this side here. Oh, I have, I actually didn't label these, but these are pigeon peas, and pigeon peas actually grow into like a little tree bush type of thing, which I think will be excellent along the fence line as well, you know, along with giving us tons of food. And you can see they are starting to come out. right? We have a whole bunch of little new baby growth there. So really excited about those. It looks like the majority of them, I think I started 4 trays of these, so 24 in each, or 24 total of the pigeon peas, and most of them I can see are kind of like starting to push their head up. These are blue butterfly vine, or blue butterfly pea I think it's called, but they're also a vine, and they will be vining along the fence line, and they provide these beautiful flowers for tea. Next to that I have some basil, right, which I saved basil seeds from my own plants, and these are just some of the starts from those that I've grown from seeds. Next to that here we have roselle, which I got seeds off of Etsy for a couple dollars. So definitely great investment, and hopefully we will be able to get tons of catalyst from these, right, to make tea and jams and jellies and all that stuff. And then back behind the roselle we have some nasturtium over here. Let me adjust the lighting, there we go. And these ones have grown quite a bit. They will get rather big, and I'm going to put them like probably underneath my blackberries to attract some of the beneficial insects, the pollinators, and we actually have one that's flowering already, so that's super exciting. They're going to go out into the garden soon. Underneath here you can see another little basil plant, or a few basil plants, and then I have moringa that I started from seed, right? I took cuttings from my moringa, but I also have started a whole bunch from seed. Most of the ones that I started from seed germinated, pretty high germination rate actually. And then I have some black-eyed Susans back here, all right, hopefully for, you know, attracting some dragonflies, and dragonflies eat mosquitoes, so that is the point of the black-eyed Susans. I have some dill here in these cups. Normally I would start it direct sown, but I plan on planting them in the guilds that haven't been started yet. On the other side I have figs. I have tons and tons of figs, all right? So these are my white Marseille figs. You can see they've been doing really well. They have a lot of new growth on them, a lot of roots already. All of the figs here are the same variety of figs, and I even have another whole thing that I have to separate out of figs. I have some yarrow in here that probably is a little overcrowded. I have to get that out into the garden. And we have borage here, which needs to go out. That's what these are. I have a little tomato plant that someone sent me. Actually, it needs to go into a planter because I'll be doing a special project with this one. This is a sweet 100 sweet tomato vine, or sweet 100, something like that. I have chamomile in here. We had some thyme that kind of didn't do too well in taking off. Some ground cherries. I have another, right back here, this one, I don't know if you can see that. I have another variety of fig. This is a brown turkey fig that I actually grew from a cutting. Somebody gave me this cutting and I was able to propagate it and root that. And then back here I have some little Everglades tomato plants. All right, so these ones are going to be specific for the food forest. These are specific to this region and I can't wait to grow those. All right, so coming out of the greenhouse, all right, you can see my sprinkler hose here that I have connected over to that sprinkler there, which is the original one. But right in front of here, it still doesn't have a guild yet. All right, this is a pear tree, and to my surprise, it has done so well. I got this as a bare root plant, and it's only been in the ground I think a month or so, but it's done really well with new growth. And then just for reference, like my Loquat tree was over here. And then right here we have our Barbados cherry tree, which I have been pruning a whole bunch. We have not gotten a ton of fruit off of this since we planted it. I've fertilized it, I've watered it. I'm not exactly sure what else it needs, but I have been pruning it quite a bit because it started kind of like doing this leaning thing. So I've been trying to get it to a better shape, and hopefully, well, actually I can see some new growth up in here, right there. So hopefully it'll start taking off and actually give us some fruits in the next couple of seasons. Over here I have my little olive tree, my little olive stick, which I've had in a pot for a while now. You can see though it does have a whole bunch of these little baby leaves coming out here. All right, since it's been planted, all of those are little new baby leaves. So hopefully this will start taking off. It was in a pot and I've been kind of not great at taking care of it, but it survived and I didn't expect it to, considering all things considered. And so yeah, I went ahead and I pruned it just to these 4 lower branches so that hopefully those will become the scaffolding for this tree and it'll grow into a nice big olive tree. All right, and so then directly behind me we have the guilds that I've shared with you guys before on this channel. You can see they have tons of growth on them, different plants, all right? Even so much to a point where like they cover these pavers here and I have to go back with scissors and just like cut off all of the stuff spilling out into the pathways. So let's start over here with this guild. You can see, first off, you can see I have some little flowers here. These are strawberry flowers. We got so many strawberries out of this guild over the past season. There's definitely still some growing and I'm gonna leave them in place and maybe we might get some more. I do have some weeds in here that need to be taken out, but you know, there's been a lot of growth on all of these beds, so keeping up with the weeds has been a little bit challenging. There are, I think, 4 blueberry plants in here. You can see tons of blueberries on this plant. All right, it is quite small, but last year all of my blueberry plants, I have 8 blueberry plants in total, I took off all the flowers off my blueberry plants. So there is one here that's doing really well. Up next to it is lemon balm. All right, this is one lemon balm plant, you guys. This whole thing from there to there, and it is about 1.5 feet tall. All right, and it is about 4 feet wide, which is around the size of this guild. And it's all lemon balm. I use it for tea, I dry it, I use it in cooking, you know, it's just, I love lemon balm. So that has continued to produce like crazy. Next to it is mint, and I know people say don't plant mint in the ground, all right, because it will do this. It comes out of the guild, all right, and it just, in the walkways now, there's a whole bunch of mint. I have mint growing in places that you wouldn't usually want mint growing, but that's fine. We mow it and it all smells like mint, so it doesn't really bother me too much. I have my ferns here that pop up. Can't really get rid of them, but I use them for like a chop and drop. I'll take them off, or I'll cut them, you know, at the root or whatever, and just lay them down in areas where it's bare. I have a whole nother blueberry plant here that is doing phenomenal. You guys, look at all of those blueberries. I cannot wait to harvest blueberries this season. There are some weeds, right? These things growing off, that's nothing that I planted. I have a milkweed plant here that has not really come back for the season yet. You can see like all the seed pods and the leaves have dried out. There were such beautiful flowers on this milkweed. This is tropical milkweed. I actually only bought 3 plants, and a lot of the seeds self-seeded themselves. So I did not plant this one here. This is a volunteer, and we had tons of caterpillars, tons of monarch butterflies still flying around now. And yeah, this will come back soon, and then we'll get tons more butterflies out of that. And look at that, blueberries, more blueberries, tons more blueberries. So super excited. You can see this mint has made its way over here, right? This is like 1 or 2 mint plants. The entire thing is completely covered in mint now. So I've left it. I love having mint and I use it for everything. And this is a beautyberry plant that grows native here. It just, you know, volunteered itself here, and I didn't get rid of it because I want to have beautyberries. Here I have, actually, let's see, a Methley plum, and it actually did started, here we go, putting out some new little leaves attached to the stem. I'm trying to get it to have scaffolding branches this way over here, all right, but it hasn't really grown so far out of the top. It's just growing out of the bottom. And I did forget to show you guys, back here. Here is a Florida King peach. This one, I did the exact same thing too. I'm trying to see if you can filter out some of the light. Here we go. And I did create some scaffolding branches on this, and it is doing extremely well. We have 1, 2, 3, 4 scaffolding branches all the way around. So definitely excited. All of this new growth has been over the past week or so. All right, and then the last thing in this guild, if I walk all the way around, it's kind of like a banana shape. A lot of this is weeds, ferns, mint, and then another weed here. We have Brazilian soda apple, which is extraordinarily spiky, which is why it's still there, because I have not had time to come in here with the gloves and like things that actually pokes through the gloves. So I need to like get something special to remove those plants. But then here's my last blueberry plant. And all of these little blueberries just waiting to turn blue. And we have a whole bunch of new flowers here also. So cannot wait for that. Alright, so right next to this guild that I just showed you guys is my Jadam liquid fertilizer container, all right, with liquid fertilizer all the time. You know, when I cut the weeds out of here, or have extra scraps or whatever, it goes into this container, and I use this, I fill it up with water, and then I use the liquid fertilizer in all of my plants, especially here in the food forest. This guild here is my lemon tree guild. It is the second guild that I planted out. It has some little kale in here growing. It has a bougainvillea plant, which is this thing here. It's not actually flowering yet, but hopefully one day the goal is to have bougainvillea vines up these two trees here, right? So growing up that tree across the middle, and then kind of have like an arch of bougainvillea, which is kind of like why this is here. Eventually we'll get to use this as some sort of a trellis. I have my rosemary over there in this guild that I started as like a tiny little baby plant, and I have been harvesting tons of rosemary off of that. We have parsley. This is flat leaf parsley, and I find that parsley does so well growing just on its own, right? I use it a ton, and I have tons more parsley growing everywhere. As you can see, we have more parsley there. We have some marigolds, which are starting to come back. Tons more parsley underneath, lots and lots of ferns. And then here in the center, I have a basil plant that was a volunteer. This is just Genevieve's basil. It volunteered itself here, and it is now seeding everywhere, and I am going to let this just go to seed and repopulate itself all over the place, even though I have lots of basil started in the greenhouse. This one I didn't have to work for. So my Japanese red mustard with all of the beautiful flowers for mustard seeds blowing in the winds. It is kind of dying out. As you can see at the bottom, it's kind of like turning white and ashy because it is seeding itself. It's flowering, and it's going to eventually complete its life cycle. And then I have my little ponderosa lemon tree here, which actually was my parents-in-laws. All right, so my Alan's parents, my in-laws had this tree. You can see it is growing a whole bunch of new little baby leaves, and it actually has produced a lot of fruit in the past. So hopefully we'll get some fruit off it this year. Last year the deer got a lot of it before we could, but yeah, hopefully we will have some lemons this year. You can see all the little baby marigolds that are making themselves at home here, and we will have lots of new orange marigolds. And then my milkweed plant, also my little stick that volunteered itself. Whenever I have milkweed, right, and this is kind of like the remnants of the seeds, whenever I have milkweed plants that volunteer themselves, I leave them just because they bring such beautiful butterflies into the space. All right, directly in front of me now from this guild is the first guild we ever created. And you can see the butterflies flying around. This actually has all of these like sticks, right? Those are milkweed plants, tropical milkweed. So I have tons of milkweed in here. It started as 3 plants, and I mean, you can see how big it's grown. It does not have any new leaves yet, but it will, right? Once we have a lot more summer days or spring days or whatever, once the weather is consistently warm and we have some rain, we will get tons of new butterflies and new caterpillars and new leaves on these trees, on these plants. And so in here you can also see tons of mint growing. I have scallions here, which are actually from the garden center, or not from the garden center, from the supermarket. I just planted out the scallions. My oregano, which has like completely tried to take over, I continue harvesting. Here goes another butterfly. I continue harvesting from my oregano plants, and I dry them for herbs, right, like for chicken seasoning, that sort of thing. But it is so fragrant. You can see where I harvested, and it's growing again from here. I have sage also, which is this. Mostly I use this just for Thanksgiving, but every once in a while I add it into some chicken or something. We have mint growing in the walkways, right? So every time you walk around here or you mow, you get like a spearmint flavor, or not flavor, scent. And then I have, I'm just trying to play around with the lighting here. And then I have my pomegranate tree, which kind of doesn't want to grow as a tree. It wants to grow as a bush. It's right, this stick right here. And so what I've been doing is I try to get rid of the green growth from the bottom. Like, so these little things here is, pomegranate growth, and it wants to grow like a bush. And I think at this point in time, I've been trying to grow it for like 2 or 3 years now, and it does have nice green growth on it this season, but I think at this point I might just actually let it grow like a bush and see what it wants to do, because I've been trying for so long to get it to do what I want it to do, and it doesn't seem to be working. So I think I'm gonna let it go and see what happens. All right, so also in this guild are some marigolds. You can't really see because it's like mostly dead right now, but there's a lot of marigolds in here and a lot of milkweed also. And then I have more blueberries. All right, so these are a different variety of blueberries. They are not growing yet, or they're growing, but they're not actually flowering yet. I have some, here we go. I have some curly parsley, which I love. There's a different variety of parsley, but I use it just the same. And then lots more mint. And I have 4 blueberry plants in here that are all the same variety. I forget what it is. But I see a little tag here. Actually, let me see what this is called. These are farthing blueberries. Oh, and look at that. Some little blueberries on them already. The last major thing in this guild is my aloe vera plant. This plant is at least 4 or 5 years old, and it is flowering, right? So this year we've gotten tons of these beautiful aloe vera plant flowers off of this plant. I had no idea that it even flowered before it started doing this last season. Oh, and then, scallions, which are also trying to flower there. You see the scallion bulb. And then next to that I have some lemon thyme, which is starting to expand, and I've been using it a ton. And then right next to this lemon balm here, I actually had a whole bunch of ginger, which is like what that is. I'll insert a clip of me ripping it up, but I actually got 4 pounds of ginger just in this tiny little space. So that was growing for about a year. I harvested it quite late, but right, you can tell it's already like dried out. I harvested it and I got 4 pounds, which I was super proud of. All right, so on to our next guild. We have this one left, and then the back one with all the blackberries. This one's gonna be super easy because all of these are weeds. I had originally ripped up a whole bunch of weeds and created this guild with the intention of doing sweet potatoes, but that did not happen. Time escaped me, and now we're growing weeds, and a lot of these like Spanish, I think it's called Spanish needle, Biddens alba, I believe it is. And you know, those are great for the bees, so I leave them. We're growing a whole bunch of those, as well as this orange tree, which actually has some flowers on it. The flowers have since fallen off and have little tiny orange buds on it, so hopefully we'll get some oranges this year. Lots and lots of palmettos, which we try to leave whenever we possibly can. Lots more weeds, some sweet potato vines that I tried to grow last year. The deer got them, but they, you know, these ones survived and apparently have started growing again, as well as those ones over there. And my guava plant, which has put on tons of new growth now that the deer do not come in here and destroy everything. And then my aloe vera, of course, which has one of those beautiful yellowish green flowers on it. On the other end of this guild, I do have another of those same peach trees growing here. It's not actually growing anything yet. It's still a stick, but it is alive. And then these little specks here are all either arugula or milkweed that I've planted from seed. I've direct sown them into the soil. And then so for our last guild, and technically it's not all one guild. It is this area here, and then all of this along the fence line. But I call it the one guild just because it started off as one guild, and then I created this little pathway here because I found myself constantly jumping through this area here and that area there, so I separated it. All right, so this is our moringa tree. You can see it's rather tall, and I actually already cut it several times over the past year. You can see how thick this trunk is. It is an extremely fast growing tree, and I started this from seed, right? So this grows ridiculously fast, and it's supposed to be like the healthiest tree in the whole world. I can't really get a good view of it unless I zoom out or like go all the way back. And then underneath it I had some strawberries that disappeared before I moved in because of the deer. These are actually weeds. I have no idea what this is, but they are going to be pulled out very, very soon, so I can put my borage in there. You can see my strawberries kind of like trying to survive in there. And then I have a whole bunch of heather in here. I have like 3 or 4 heather plants that have gotten significantly bigger since I put them in, and the bees love them. You can see my bees. I don't know if you can, I'm trying not to get super close, but there are some bees in there that, oops, that love hanging out on the heather, which is why I got them. So purple heather in there. And then over here in this like separated out little guild, I have my white Marseille fig. So I actually have had this for several years. Last year, I'll put some photos up here on the screen, I had a whole bunch of figs off of this one plant, and I cut this down. All right, it is about maybe 5 feet or so, and I cut it there. I left 2 branches because it was like coming out, and you can see there's still quite a few like new little sticks coming up, popping their head up through the soil for figs, which I might actually just leave, but I want this to be a rather large tree. I envision it, let me back up here, I envision it kind of coming up all the way, and that's the scaffolding, right, what I'm kind of trying to develop right now, and I want it to be a rather large tree and be able to like walk underneath it. So this tree, I had a whole bunch of figs last season. Actually, they were really good. They actually didn't taste very figgy to me, right, like the kind of normal figs that you're used to, but they taste more like nectarines, which I actually really enjoyed. I'm gonna try to keep it a little bit more pruned because you can see it has tons of new growth off the side of like this very bottom one, and then this is actually coming up through the soil underneath. It's connected, right, these two. And then I have gone ahead and planted a whole bunch of parsley here. You can see I do have a whole bunch of weeds also, but mostly parsley. And then I cut this parsley, I make tabbouleh salad like at least once a week, and I have tons of parsley growing here, as well as some strawberries, my little baby strawberry plants at the very end of the season still coming out. I have some over there, I have some strawberry plants here, and my palmetto plants that I decided to leave in this guild as well because the bees love palmettos and because they are a nightmare to get rid of. So they live here now forever. I have tons more parsley in here. I just like sowed a whole bunch of parsley. Most of it is like Italian flat leaf parsley. You can see I have my strawberries still doing really well, and then I do have a squash vine. Oh, here you go, a squash vine that has kind of taken its own life. Like, I don't do anything with it. I planted it once and I've had a few squash of it. It is Seminole squash, but it hasn't really done much. Hopefully one day, oh, here we go, it's like over here as well. It's kind of in between everything. Hopefully one day we'll get a whole bunch of Seminole squash. It's supposed to be native to this area. And then I have my blackberry plants. I have one plant there. I'm not sure if you can like see it with all of the rest of the green around it. There's not really too much underneath this. There were a whole bunch of strawberries, but those have since kind of died back. And I have been waiting for the blackberries to like start the new growth again after I prune them for this season. Hopefully they should be picking up soon. I have 12 blackberry bushes. You can see like on this trellis system here. Some of it's tighter than others. It's supposed to be tighter, but we have one, we have 2 here, along with some parsley again. I'm gonna cross right over, and then tons and tons of parsley. This is like where the majority of my parsley is. This is a blackberry bush right here. If you can see, it's kind of like vining, right? I have pruned all of them out. Tons of parsley. All of that is parsley. All right, so you can see how much we use that. And new growth on our blackberry bushes. We do have like some of these weeds or whatever it is that, you know, grow native to this area in the back, where I can't really reach, and some ferns. I planted out some strawberries down here originally as well, which have done, they did pretty well in the peak of the season, right? And now it's kind of over. And then beautyberry growing here. I will end up transplanting this beautyberry out because this is going to be a rather large bush, and it is right here next to one of my blackberry bushes, so that cannot be, and I would rather have my blackberry bush. And then one of my blackberry bushes is already starting to flower. So I have actually started watering these with the sprinkler system, which I think is why they're picking up now again. But I am going to come out here and like get some of the grass around it to stop stifling that growth. And then we have 2 or 3 more over here that, let me see if you can see that. They're kind of more like little sticks, but hopefully they will start bushing out soon. Whoop. And we can start trellising them up to the other side of the trellis. Alright, so that has been the entire Food Forest tour so far. If you're still watching at this point, thank you so much for watching the entire video. I absolutely love sharing all of my Food Forest tours with you, and hopefully in the next couple of months we will start our actual garden, our kitchen garden. But for right now we have been pouring all of our love and effort into this space, and we will be creating some new guilds, right? The trees that did not have guilds around them that you saw like in the beginning of the video, they're gonna get some guilds, and all of these little plants are gonna go right underneath them. So thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye.